How many of these 18 dumb mistakes are you making right now without even knowing it? Most hunters spend years repeating the same 5 or 6 errors over and over and blaming bad luck, bad weather, or smart deer for the empty freezer. The truth is uglier. The deer aren't smarter than you. They're just better at remembering what you did last week. I've made every single mistake on this list at least once. A few of them I made for 10 years before a buddy or a wildlife biologist set me straight. None of them are complicated to fix. All of them cost you dear. And the worst part is most of them are invisible until you understand the biology behind why they fail. We're going to walk through all 18, and I'm telling you up front that mistake number 18 is the one that costs more mature bucks than every other mistake on this list combined. And almost every hunter is guilty of it. The first mistake is checking your stand the week before season opens. I know it feels productive. You drive out, climb up, make sure the straps are good, hang a fresh camera, maybe trim a couple branches that grew over the summer. You feel ready. What you actually did was deposit fresh human scent on every tree, every branch, and every step of your access route exactly 7 days before the deer needed to start ignoring your stand to feel safe. Auburn University's GPS-collared buck research from a 6,400-acre study site in Dorchester County, South Carolina, showed that mature bucks reduce daylight visits to recently disturbed areas by up to 80%. 80%. One preseason visit costs you 4 out of every 5 potential daylight encounters in your best stand. And you can pull cameras and check stands in late summer, then leave them alone. Mid-September is too late. I learned this lesson the hard way on a 180-acre lease in Buffalo County, Wisconsin. I checked all 4 of my stands the Sunday before opening day, walked the access trails, hung fresh cards and 3 cameras. The first weekend of bow season, I sat 22 hours over those 4 stands and saw exactly 2 does. The neighbor who never touches his stands until he climbs in shot a 145 class buck on opening morning, 80 yards from one of my stands. He hadn't been on the property in 6 weeks. The deer trusted his ground. They didn't trust mine. The second mistake is walking the same path to your stand every single time. You think you're being efficient. The deer think you've handed them a printed schedule. Every step you take deposits ground scent from your boots that lingers for hours, sometimes days, in cool, damp conditions. Mature does start to associate your access trail with danger after 2 or 3 trips. They teach their fawns to avoid it. South Carolina telemetry research confirmed that DO family groups pass behavioral conditioning across generations, meaning the same trail you used 4 seasons ago might still be a dead zone today. Vary your approach by at least 50 yards, roughly half the length of a football field. Every other site. I keep 3 different access routes mapped on my phone for every stand I hunt. 1 for west winds, 1 for east, and 1 for the rare days when the wind goes still, and I have to come in from the only direction the thermals will carry my scent away from. It's not complicated. It just takes 1 afternoon of planning before season. The third mistake is hunting a scrape that's already cold. A scrape is just a pawed patch of dirt under an overhanging branch where bucks deposit scent from their hooves and forehead glands. Active scrapes have fresh dirt turned over, a chewed-up licking branch hanging 4 to 5 feet off the ground, and the smell of urine. A cold scrape has matted leaves blown over the dirt, a clean licking branch with no recent damage, and 0 fresh sign. If there's no fresh dirt, you're sitting over a ghost. Carl Miller's research at the University of Georgia Deer Lab confirmed that scraping behavior peaks roughly 2 weeks before the actual rut and drops off sharply once breeding begins. Hunting a scrape 3 weeks after it went cold is hunting an empty mailbox. Walk in on a calm midday with rubber boots, look at the dirt, look at the licking branch, and trust what you see. If the leaves are settled and the branch is intact, walk away and find a fresh one. The fourth mistake is the one that makes me want to bang my head against a tree because I did it for years. You spray down with scent killer, you put on your scent-free clothes, you do everything right, and then you scratch your face, adjust your hat, and touch your bow grip with bare hands. Every one of those touches transfers oils from your skin onto surfaces a deer will scent. Check from 50 yards downwind. 3 hours of prep, ruined in 30 seconds. Wear scent-free gloves from the moment you leave your truck until the moment the buck is in the dirt. And then I keep a pair of cheap nitrile gloves under my hunting gloves, for the moments when I need finger dexterity to nock an arrow or work my release. Costs about $1 per sit, and eliminates the single biggest invisible scent leak most hunters never plug. The fifth mistake is setting up your stand the morning of the hunt. I know guys who carry a climber in, set up at 5 a.m., and wonder why they don't see anything. You bumped every deer in that area before legal shooting light. The sound of straps tightening, metal clicking, and leaves crunching travels 150 to 200 yards in calm pre-dawn air, roughly 2 football fields in every direction. Hang stands during midday in late summer or early fall. Let the woods reset for at least 2 weeks before you hunt the spot. I prefer 4 weeks if I can manage it. Hang every stand by Labor Day, walk away, and let the local deer herd absorb your stand into their landscape until it stops registering as a foreign object. By opening day, they walk past it without looking up. The sixth mistake is hunting the same stand 3 days in a row. By the second sit, the local does have noticed something. By the third sit, the mature bucks have rerouted around you. Auburn's GPS data showed that adult bucks are exceptionally good at pattern recognition, far better than most hunters give them credit for. Rotate stands, hunt one spot once, give it 5 to 7 days minimum, then come back. The hunters who kill mature bucks consistently in heavily pressured areas almost universally rotate between 4 to 6 stand locations on a single property. Single stand hunters get 1 chance per season. Multi-stand rotators get 6. The math is obvious. Yes, everything in this video, plus 60 more field-tested techniques, is in the Buck Hunter's Bible. 90 pages of deer behavior, science, scent control, scouting methods, stand placement, and rut phase tactics. Reference card in the back you can take to the stand. Link in the description, QR code on screen. The 7th mistake is grunting at a buck that's already walking toward you. He's coming. Why are you trying to call him in harder? A grunt at the wrong moment makes him stop, look in your direction, and start scent checking the air. Save the call for bucks that are leaving or angling away. A grunt at a buck heading the wrong direction can swing him 30 to 50 yards toward you, roughly the distance from your front porch to your mailbox. A grunt at a buck already coming in just makes him stop, pin your location, and start working out whether the sound matches the visual. The 8th mistake is leaving your scent on licking branches when hanging trail cameras. The licking branch is the most chemically sensitive piece of real estate in the entire deer woods. Bucks deposit forehead gland scent, preorbital gland scent, and saliva on it. Does check it for buck activity. The moment you grab that branch with bare hands to position a camera, you've contaminated the one piece of sign that tells you whether your spot is hot or cold. Use gloves. Always. The licking branch is to a deer what a community bulletin board is to a small town. Every deer in the area checks it. Contaminating it with human scent doesn't just spook one buck. It tells the entire local herd that something is wrong at that exact spot, and they reroute around it for weeks. If the 9th mistake is hunting into the wind instead of with it. A whitetail's nose has roughly 297 million olfactory receptors compared to your 5 million. They can detect human scent at concentrations measured in parts per billion. You cannot beat that nose. Stop trying. Hunt with the wind in your face only when the deer are coming from in front of you, which means you have to know where they're coming from before you climb the tree. Most hunters check the wind in the parking lot and pick a stand based on that single data point. The right approach is the opposite. Identify where the deer are coming from based on bedding and food locations, then pick a stand that puts the wind in your face from that direction. The wind dictates which stand you hunt, not whether you hunt at all. The 10th mistake is sitting too high in your stand. I know I just spent the last script telling you that height matters, and it does, but there's a ceiling. Above 25 feet, roughly the height of a 2-story house, your shot angles get severe. A steep downward angle into a deer's spine misses both lungs and produces wounded animals that are rarely recovered. Stay between 18 and 22 feet, about the height of a basketball hoop with 3 more feet of clearance. That window gives you scent advantage, visual coverage, and a shot angle that drives the broadhead through the heart and lungs. I shot a 3.5-year-old buck in west central Illinois 2 seasons ago from exactly 20 feet, and the arrow passed through both lungs and exited the offside ribcage. He went 60 yards. From 28 feet, That same shot angle would have caught one lung and a piece of liver and turned into an all-night tracking job. The 11th mistake is rattling during the wrong phase of the rut. Pre-rut, when bucks are testing each other and testosterone is climbing, rattling pulls cruising bucks in to investigate the fight. Peak rut, when bucks are locked down with does, rattling does the opposite. A buck that's already with a doe will leave the area to avoid a confrontation. He's not interested in fighting. He's interested in not losing the doe he just earned. Rattle the last week of October through the first week of November in most of the country. Stop rattling once you start seeing chases. The chase phase tells you the does are entering estrus and the bucks are committed to the breeding cycle. From that point until peak rut ends, your rattling antlers belong in the pack, not in your hand. Switch to soft grunts and doe bleats if you need to call it all. The 12th mistake is moving when you see a deer at 200 yards. You think it's far enough that you're safe. You're not. Deer have a 310-degree field of view and motion detection rod cells that fire at the slightest movement, even at 300 yards in good light. UGA vision research confirmed that the deer's visual system processes motion roughly 2.5 times faster than yours in low-light conditions. By the time you see the deer has been watching you for 10 seconds. Freeze. Don't reach for your bow. Don't turn your head. Wait until it puts its head behind a tree or drops behind terrain, then move, slowly, not at full speed. A controlled shift of position behind visual cover is invisible. A panicked grab for the bow at 200 yards because you thought you had time is a flagged tail and a spooked deer. The 13th mistake is hunting food plots every single evening. You're training the deer to avoid them during daylight. Penn State University research on deer movement patterns showed that food source pressure, even from passive observation, shifts feeding times toward darkness within roughly 2 weeks of consistent hunting activity. The deer aren't gone. They're showing up at 9 p.m. instead of 5 p.m. Hunt food plots on the first frost, the first cold front of October, and the first snow of December. Skip the in-between. 3 sits per season over a food plot will produce more daylight encounters than 30 sits will because the deer don't have time to pattern your presence between hunts. Quality over quantity, always. The 14th mistake is wearing your hunting clothes in the truck. Your seat is contaminated with detergent, body odor, all fast food, gasoline, dog hair, and whatever your wife sprayed on the upholstery 6 months ago. The moment your hunting jacket touches that seat, you've absorbed every one of those scent signatures into the fabric. A whitetail's olfactory receptors will pick up the gasoline trace 80 yards downwind. Strip in the parking area, put hunting clothes on outside the truck, store them in a scent-free bag during transport. I keep mine in a Cabela's scent lock bag in the bed of my truck, and I haven't put hunting clothes on inside a vehicle in 8 years. My wife thinks the parking lot strip routine is ridiculous. She's also the one who reminds me to grab the bag every time I leave the house, so I'll take her judgment with the assist. The 15th mistake is checking trail cameras during prime hunting hours. Every visit is a deposit of scent at the exact spot you're trying to hunt. Cell cameras solve this problem permanently. A Cutaback or Reconic cell unit transmits photos to your phone, and you never set foot on the property between September and January. If you can't afford cell cameras, check SD card cameras at Midday during a windy week, no more than once every 3 to 4 weeks, and approach from a different direction every time. Wear rubber boots. Touch nothing except the camera. Get in, swap the card, and get out in under 5 minutes. The longer you stand at the camera location, the more scent you deposit on every surface within 20 yards. The 16th mistake is shooting at a deer you can't fully see. Thick brush, low light, leaves between you and the vitals, partial body exposure behind a tree. This is the #1 cause of wounded deer that are never recovered. If you can't see the entire chest cavity behind the front shoulder, clearly enough to pick a specific patch of hair, do not release the arrow. Wait for the deer to step into the lane. If it doesn't step into the lane, let it walk. There's no shame in passing a marginal shot. There's plenty of shame in tracking blood for 2 miles and losing a deer because you took a hopeful shot. I've helped recover wounded deer for buddies who took marginal shots, and the look on a hunter's face when the blood trail dries up is something I never want to wear myself. Pass the bad shot. Take the good one. Always. I put together everything you've heard so far, plus the rest of the system, in the Buck Hunter's Bible. stand placement, scent control, scouting, rut tactics. Many 90 pages of field-tested material with a quick reference card for the stand. Links in the description, QR code on screen. The 17th mistake is packing out the same day you kill. You drag the deer through the cover, you spread blood and gut pile scent across 200 yards of timber. You bumped every deer on the property, and now your second best stand is contaminated for a week. If you can come back at night with a flashlight and a partner, do it. The deer will move back into the area within 48 hours instead of avoiding it for 2 weeks. A buddy of mine in eastern Kentucky kills 2 mature bucks per season on the same 90-acre property because he refuses to drag during daylight. He marks the deer, backs out, and comes back at midnight with 2 friends and a sled. The local doe family group never sees him recover an animal. The pressure stays low. The bucks keep showing up. Same principle I covered in the entry route discussion in the deer behavior video. Less intrusion, more recovery. The 18th mistake is the one I promised would cost more mature bucks than every other mistake combined. Quitting at 10 a.m. The single most consistently confirmed finding in modern deer movement research is that mature bucks during the rut move heavily between 9 a.m. and 1 p.m. Mississippi State University Deer Lab, research using GPS-collared bucks, documented that adult buck activity actually peaks during mid-morning hours during the pre-rut and rut phases, not at dawn. Auburn University's data showed similar results. The Quality Deer Management Association published harvest data over multiple years, confirming that a disproportionate percentage of mature bucks are killed between 9 a.m. and 11 a.m. during the first 2 weeks of November. And what is every hunter on the property doing during those exact hours? They're walking back to the truck for breakfast. They're scrolling their phone in the cab. They're heading home to take a midday nap before the evening sit. The deer woods at 9:30 a.m. in the first week of November, in the middle of the rut, are emptier of hunters than they are at any other point in the season. That is when the biggest bucks cruise. They cruise in mid-morning specifically because the pressure has lifted. They learned over decades of DO family group teaching that the human threat clears out at 9 a.m. and the woods become safe for the next 4 hours. In Buffalo County, Wisconsin, in Pike County, Illinois, in eastern Kentucky, in central Kansas, the same pattern holds. The hunters who tag mature bucks during the rut almost universally share one habit. They stay in the tree until 1 p.m. minimum. They pack a sandwich. They stay still. They wait for the woods to forget they're there. And the buck you've been hunting for 3 years walks under your stand at 11:47 a.m. because every other hunter on the property left 2 hours ago. That's the math. None of these 18 mistakes are about gear. None of them are about luck. Every single one is about discipline, biology, and respect for an animal that has been refining its survival instincts for 4 million years. The buck you want to kill is patterning you the same way you're trying to pattern him. The difference is he's been doing it longer and his life depends on it. Yours doesn't. So count how many of these 18 you're guilty of right now. Be brutally honest with yourself. I was guilty of 11 of them when I started keeping track 6 years ago. 11 out of 18. I had walked the same trail for years. I had checked stands the week before opening day every single season. I had quit at 10 a.m. more times than I can count, and convinced myself the deer just weren't moving. Today I'm guilty of 2, and the only reason I haven't fixed those last 2 is laziness, not ignorance. The data is the data. I just have to act on it. Same goes for you. Nay, and I know exactly which 2 and why I haven't fixed them yet. Pick the 3 that are easiest to fix this week, not the hardest. Not the ones that require new gear or a new property. The 3 that just require a different choice on your part starting tomorrow morning. Stop walking the same trail. Stop checking cameras during prime hours. Stay in the tree past 10 a.m. during the rut. Try those 3 for 1 season and tell me your encounter rate doesn't go up. I'm not guessing. I'm telling you what happened on my ground when I finally stopped sabotaging my own hunts. The deer were never the problem. I was. And if you're being honest with yourself for 60 seconds, you might be too. Most of us are. The only way to find out is to be the kind of hunter who reads a list like this and doesn't get defensive. The kind who writes the numbers down, picks the easy fixes first, and gets back in the tree this Saturday with 1 less mistake on the scoreboard. That's the hunter the big bucks lose to. That's the hunter you can become. starting Saturday. Pack a sandwich, pack a thermos. Get in the tree before light. Stay in the tree past noon. And when that buck you've been hoping for finally walks into the lane at 11:47 a.m. in the second week of November, remember the math. Every other hunter on the property left 2 hours ago. The woods belong to you and the deer that learn to trust them again. That is when the magic happens. That is when 18 mistakes become 0, and the score finally tilts your way.